Hello and welcome to the Punting Green. This is your US Open preview brought to you by Priced Up Bet and oddschecker. I'm your host, George Elek, delighted to be joined by Ginger Joe and by Tom Jacobs as we look ahead to the third major of the year. How are you guys doing?
Really good, George. Yeah, exciting times. Got a good major this week.
Yeah.
Nice to come into the studio off the back of a winner.
Well, I was going to mention that, but you've come in before. You've cut me off before I've even been able to say it.
I like to brag now and then.
Okay.
I think Tom was the same though. Came in as well with the Ryan Fox
you did
win.
as well?
I had the 1-2 actually.
No.
I couldn't lose when he got to the playoff.
Did you even watch the playoff?
No, it's no okay. I just went to sleep.
Did you actually?
No, I didn't
Okay.
watch it.
It's quite annoying to have to watch a 4-hole playoff on a par 5.
When you're winning either way.
Yeah. Who is the better result?
Fox.
Ah.
But that's good because that works for both of us then, you see. So share in the
Well,
winners
I
works
backed Cam
well.
Young.
Did he? Oh, that's your own fault.
So
then.
I saw him make one of the most incredible fours I've ever seen on 17, and then for the middle of the fairway, somehow make a 6 on 18, and I'd gone to myself a cup of tea when to miss the shot that mattered. So.
He's been frustrating to back. I've been following him a lot this year and last year, and a lot of people are calling him Scam Young now. So
oh no,
we might have to keep that in mind.
I can guarantee you, I've got no intention of backing him whatsoever this weekend. I can guarantee you by the time they tee off on Thursday, I'd have had a few quid.
Change your mind on Wednesday when the exchange price gets a bit big.
Exactly. Exactly. So last time you sat here, Joe.
Yes.
Head of the Masters. What did you say?
I said Rory McIlroy will not win the Masters. I even gave it a big cross, and it went very, very wrong.
It's a learning experience.
It is, yeah. I mean, look, we had 4 of the squad actually in the top placing, so we made profit. But I can't ignore the fact that I did take a little bit of a shine off the profit because I was very adamant that Rory McIlroy would not win the Grand Slam. And look, here we are. We move on.
Can he win it this time?
He can. There's a little bit of a worry, isn't there, about his long game at the moment. I don't know where you'd see that, Tom, but at a course where you need to be hitting it well off the tee, it's not really where you want to come when you're not fully confident. But look, it's not like he's got the issues through the bag. His iron play's still okay. His putting's as it is. And he's very much a momentum player. If he starts well, I expect him to finish well. I'm just not sure it's going to suit him with that lack of confidence in the long game. He usually takes advantage in this part, so that's a big worry, especially with the rough around Oakmont this week. It's not, you don't want to be giving yourself too much trouble off the tee too often, too soon.
It's definitely a mentality thing as well, though, because he's got the hump basically about the driver leak coming out ahead of the PGA Championship.
He's got to go over that, hasn't he?
I think he's had his moan up in the Canadian Open press conference now, and that should be enough for him.
Yeah.
My concern actually would be that in 2016 he was coming into this off the back of a win, a 4th and a 10th, and still missed the cut. And now he's coming off the back of one of his rare missed cuts, shooting 78 in the second round, driver all over the show. It would be performance-based more than anything, I think. And I know you mentioned the irons being okay, but they are slowly deteriorating since his Masters win.
Sure.
And it feels like there's got to be like a motivation thing here as well, where like he's won the Masters, going into the USPGA. I'm sure he had like the annual Grand Slam in his head. Doesn't really turn up.
Gone. Yeah.
Like you can kind of forgive him now for probably being a bit like got the Ryder Cup in
on the beach,
which obviously he loves. Yeah, just. And obviously he's got Port Rush coming up, which he'll be bang up for.
I think that's the thing. I think it's the Open Championship now is like, because he's obviously already won one, but I feel like he's never quite reached the heights in the Open Championship that he would have wanted to in the past.
Yeah.
And obviously he went close to Cam Smith, but I think he's got a bit to prove, and obviously being in Ireland is a huge factor. So, yeah, I don't know about him this week. I think it's a good chance to take him on.
That was going to be my question.
We'll get there, but yeah.
Yeah, well, sorry, yeah.
No, you mean, might as well. We're there now.
He's a double-figure price, isn't he? Rory McIlroy. He's just completed the Grand Slam. It does feel potentially backable, but you want to... If you're backing him at that price, you want to feel like he's got a genuine chance of winning the tournament. And it's just, when you're standing on that tee, if you've got swing issues, club issues from the very first shot of the hole, you're really going to struggle to maintain a good standard of golf over the 4 days. Look, he hits his 3-wood probably long enough, but he's not going to come out to Oakmont and start hitting 3-wood off the tee, so you need him to drive the ball well. But if he does, if he starts well and drives the ball well, that 10-1 is instantly going to go into 5-1 mid-round. So just be interesting to see how he starts anyway.
Okay, well, we'll get into it now. If you haven't already got a Priced Up account, then make sure you go and get one. There are 10 places for the golf this weekend. That is industry best or matching industry best. No one paying more than 10 places over the event. And they've also got some price boosts, which we will go through as we go. Price boosts across all sport the whole time, but they've got 6 specific ones for the US Open Golf this weekend, which we'll get on to. A couple do tie into the guys' tips as well, so make sure you capitalise on those whilst they are there. But yeah, make sure you get a Price Up account if you haven't already. 10 places and boosts are plenty. Before we get into the market itself, and I'll run through the prices, Oakmont, last seen 2016, where Dustin Johnson won, Shane Lowry led going into the Sunday. Horrific weather that weekend, which caused havoc with the schedule. As is always the case with the US Open, we've seen loads of social media videos of balls disappearing in roughs. But what kind of a test of golf is this? Some 290-yard par 3 point, 600 plus par 5s. Is this a bomber's paradise?
I mean, look, being a long hitter here is definitely going to be an advantage, but you have to be accurate. There's no point hitting it 330, 335 off the tee if you're going to leave yourself in the rough, because it's not really a recovery sort of golf course. It's not like even at the PGA Championship, you hit your tee shot in the rough, you're still going to have a shot into the green. But the attack angles around here are very slim. The rough is extremely long. You're not always going to be getting that pure contact, and that's effectively just what's making the green so hard to hit. So you can look at it two ways. You either take your long hitter and find them in the fairway, providing they're accurate, or you take a little bit off your driver and just try and find a player that's plodding their way around the golf course, limiting damage effectively. Tom, I don't know what you think of. It's very long, isn't it? So,
but it's almost. I've seen some people saying it's so long.
Yes.
Like the longest holes are so long that being a bomber doesn't really help, because they're not going to be going for the par 5 and 2 anyway.
I think the argument is always like, as long as a shorter hitter is good with their long irons, it essentially negates it. And the one thing I would point to, I know we're talking about kind of 160-yard difference, I think, since the 2016 renewal, but Jim Furyk was second behind Dustin Johnson. He was outside, I think he was 180th in driving distance that year.
And even Shane.
Yeah, like Shane's not the longest. I mean, he averages the same distance off the tee now, which I think back then was kind of like good enough for like 34th on tour. He's now outside the top 100, I think, in distance. So it's a slightly different game. But then we had like Kevin Na, Zach Johnson, Jason Duffner, Daniel Summerhays, all these guys in the top 10 because they just plodded their way around. So I do think the accuracy can play into this. And it's weird, like we always just go down the lines of longer is better. And generally speaking, it is. But I think the thing that gets underplayed in that is that generally these elite drivers of the golf ball are also reasonably accurate. Like Bryson DeChambeau is ridiculously accurate for his length. Joaquin Niemann, accurate considering how long he hits it. Jon Rahm. Rory, has his moments with the driver. Bryson's been all over the place, I think, at Virginia last week on Live. So they can get caught out. But longer's always going to be beneficial. And I think ultimately it just ties into the fact that they're the better players anyway.
Yeah.
Like I think that always comes to it. Like if someone said, Dustin Johnson won because of his length, it's not because Dustin Johnson's one of the best players in the world at the time. It's all sort of ties into that. Sure. So
also with the length as well, it can become an advantage if you're long enough and accurate off the tee with some of the longer par 4s and some of the par 5s. For example, Bryson will be hitting a 4-iron or 5-iron into some of the holes where maybe 60% of the players on tour will be hitting a 5-wood or a 3-wood. Now, obviously, the benefit with hitting the irons, especially with the way that Bryson does, is that you can get the ball to stop quick enough. These are sort of big, undulating greens. It's not
fast as well, aren't they?
Yeah, 14 on the stimp meter. These are probably going to be some of the fastest greens we've ever seen on tour this week, especially on the first 2 days. The weather's meant to deteriorate a little bit, I believe, over Saturday and Sunday. But the fact that he can hit it long, high and get the ball to stop quick, it's a massive advantage around here. So it's not even necessarily off the tee where he's gaining. It's with the approach shots. That is where he may be able to take a bit of an advantage with hitting irons into some of the greens rather than woods. It's a lot easier to get those to stop on the greens, that's for sure.
Yeah, interesting. And also, I've seen some kind of mentions about the fact that Dustin Johnson, a Masters winner, won in 2016, Angel Cabrera, a Masters winner, won in 2007. Some players at the top end of the leaderboard in 2016, Sergio Garcia was tied 5th. Any relevance there? Obviously big, fast, undulating greens probably being the one comparison. Yeah, sure. And probably good ball strikers seem to be the players that do well here. And the good thing about good ball striking is you're generally going to leave yourself pin high. You're not going to be too far offline. And even if you are around here, the fact the greens are so big, you're still probably going to be on the flat surface anyway. So good ball strikers from the fairway. I quite like the idea of distance off the tee around here. I know what Tom's saying. If you're not accurate, then it's pointless. But like you said, some of these Scheffler, Bryson, they're so good off the tee that it has to be an advantage if you're hitting an iron into some of the greens rather than a wood, because you're getting the opportunity to stop the ball
And they're so accurate through the bag now as well with these longer clubs.
And I think it's more the fact that they're going to have a bit more freedom off the tee. Like they can club down. That's the major thing. It's not so much how well they're going to hit their driver, because we know that, right? But it can be like, as you said, Rory could go out and hit 3-wood. Rory won't hit 3-wood because he's not humble enough to go down.
Sure.
But you mentioned about the Masters, George. I think it's a really good point, because Zach Johnson, again, I mentioned that he was inside the top 10, an unlikely Masters winner who did it by plodding around in bad weather. Like, could do that sort of thing again, which is we'll tie into one of the selections later on. But I do think there's some sort of relevance to it. I think, again, it always trans back to who's the best players in the world, and they'll do well at the Masters and US Open eventually. You just have to look at the kind of record of people in majors and stuff like that. But it's definitely a factor.
Okay, let's get through the market then. As I say, priced up a fifth to 10 places here. Scottie Scheffler is 11 to 4. I think the general consensus seems to be that's the shortest price of a favourite in a major since Tiger. Bryson DeChambeau 13 to 2. Jon Rahm 10 to 1. Rory McIlroy 12 to 1. It was only under a month ago that he went off favourite for the USPGA, now fourth favourite for the US Open. Xander Schauffele is 18 to 1. Colin Morikawa 20 to 1. Ludwig Åberg 20 to 1. Joaquin Niemann with his best major performance last time out 22 to 1. Tommy Fleetwood 28 to 1. Justin Thomas 30 to 1, Patrick Cantlay 30 to 1, Sepp Straka 30 to 1, Shane Lowry 30 to 1, 40 to 1 bar those. Now we'll come to your selections in a second, but let's start with Scottie, and this is the first of the priced up boosts. There are 6, and Scheffler outright winner is 16 to 5, which I'm pretty sure is bigger than the exchange price at the moment. So if you are going to back Scottie to win, there is genuinely no better place to do it than on the priced up boosts. We spoke off air a second ago, Joe, and you don't have to be betting Scheffler at 16 to 5 to also accept that he's by far and away the likeliest winner here.
He's exceptional. And like we've said, it's not just the fact that from strokes gained tee to green, he's better than everyone. It's not the fact that his recovery is generally better than everyone, but it's the fact that his bogey avoidance is so good as well. Not only is he making more birdies pretty much than anyone else on a consistent basis, but he's also making less bogeys. I know it sounds simple, but that's a huge trait to have at a golf course like this. If you can limit damage, you're not going to do too much damage to your score effectively, because you're going to find this week all of the players around this tournament are going to have bogeys, double bogeys. I find it very, very hard to see anyone going bogey free around this golf course. Yeah. But the fact that Scheffler limits his damage so much and so well just makes him hard to sort of see past. So look, we've got a field here of over 150 players. I'm not going to go and tip Scheffler at 16 to 5, even though it's a very tempting price with priced up. But he is the likeliest winner, it is fair to say.
Would you agree with that?
I think he's the likeliest winner. I think it's hard to disagree with that. I think the one caution to the wind is that Scheffler's very good when there's no variables whatsoever. Flat track, PGA Tour course, bully. Yeah. No, and that's not to take anything away from the guy. Sure. You have to be very, very good to win 9 times in the year, regardless of where you do it. But I think as soon as you get into the US Open, it doesn't matter who the player is. I don't think even I'd have felt confident about taking Tiger Woods on those kind of prices, even when he was what he was. Yeah. So, I think just for that reason, I would be out on it. Interestingly, he was actually, I think, he was definitely inside the top 10, might have been in the top 5 after round 1 here in 2016 when he was an amateur. Went on to miss the cut. But just that one round will probably give him enough confidence to go, you know what, I can come back and do this. He's obviously got a good caddy on the bag. So very hard to oppose him, but for the reasons of a short price and just a few more variables in play, I'm happy to do it.
I quite like that about his game, though, just on a slightly sort of contradicting angle. I feel like the harder the golf course gets, the more he almost excels. Like, even when he won last time, he was the only player in double figures. And the fact that we've got big greens here means that even if he is in trouble, I feel like he's a wise player that will just find the flat spot. He's not going to be attacking every green. And sometimes that's the way just to get around this golf course. Pars are your friend, effectively. And I'd slightly disagree. I think he will thrive because it's a more difficult course. At the same time, like Tom said, really, if you do start making the course easier, he's just going to mop up birdies all around, isn't he? So
such an interesting major record for Scheffler, like unbelievably consistent. But he hadn't won a major away from Augusta until he won the PGA Championship last month, and he with 8 top 10s in the PGA Championship, the US Open, and the Open in that time, which for a serial winner is just kind of bizarre not to have got over the line before that. In the US Open, he missed the cut in 2 of his first 3 events, once as an amateur, once as a pro. but then tied 7th, tied 2nd, tied 2nd, 7th, 2nd, and then 3rd. Then last year 41st. So, he's obviously gone well at US Open tracks in the past, albeit not last year when he was in such good form.
He covers about 30 different stats as number 1 on the PGA Tour this year as well. I don't even think Tiger sort of did that. We are getting towards that territory now where he is separating himself from every other golfer on the planet. It's just exceptional. A lot of people say Rory's the best player. He's not. He's clear number 2 without a question. Would you agree, Tom? But
I think now, I think going into the Masters it was the other way around.
Yeah,
but I think it's very easy for those two to flip flop. And I
felt like Rory winning kind of lit the touch paper, didn't it?
Yeah. I think actually one of the things is as soon as Scheffler turns that on, Rory goes the wrong way.
Yeah.
I think it's as soon as he wants to turn it on, I'm stuffed sort of thing. I think it's a bit of a mentality thing.
Yeah.
So I think there is a kind of I can't quite keep up with him when he's playing like this in terms of Rory to Scheffler and. Look, as much as I've just said, it's a short price and all those sort of things. Like, it is very hard to get away from the fact that there's an obvious chance. But like you said, George, that would have been the case in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
In every major, and as you said, again, can't take anything away from the PJ. In the end, he did really well on the back 9. But that front 9 on Sunday, he was begging to be caught.
Yeah.
It was only because no one else could put pressure on Bryson wasn't doing it.
And
Jon Rahm
completely
then
fell apart,
did.
yeah.
But then he fell apart early enough that Bryson could kind of coast home. He didn't. He put his foot down. But, I think if anyone had put pressure on Scheffler early when he was stumbling a little bit on Sunday, it could have been a very different story.
Yeah.
So you have to take those variables into account of, what would have happened if someone could have pushed me. Look at the leaderboard behind him. It wasn't great. So it's a really big conundrum, isn't it? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just never going to back someone that short, so it doesn't matter.
And if you look at the price he's gone off for majors, if you bet Scottie Scheffler for every major, you'd be well down, wouldn't you?
You're struggling.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's just he does so much less wrong in comparison to Rory. I can't see Scheffler going out and shooting a 78, but Rory, you can definitely go out and see they're scoring a 78. It's like Scheffler's bad stuff is so much better than everyone else that he can go and shoot 65. He can then go and play poorly and shoot level par. Whereas McIlroy might play poorly and shoot 5-6 over par, and you're almost playing yourself out of the tournament. He's a very, very smart golfer, I feel like Scheffler.
The only reason to back him ahead of play though, is if you think he's just going to separate himself in round 1 completely.
Which he doesn't often do, does he?
Which he doesn't do as much as Rory McIlroy has done in the past.
So you think it's better backing him in play?
I think so, because I don't how many clear of someone like Rahm, Bryson, Rory does he have to be in round 1 to touch an even shorter price? I'd rather see that he's played okay in round 1 and take him, even if he does go slightly short and goes 2-1, at least you know what,
Yeah.
Of course.
So I think that is the one thing I would say is if you are going to back him, I'd wait a little bit.
There were 2 interesting moments. I remember on the Sunday in the PGA where him and Rahm put it on the same place over the back of the par 5, I think 12th or 13th, and Rahm hit a terrible chip and Scheffler put it dead. And then in the short par 4, they both put it in the same place in the bunker. And Rahm hit a terrible bunker shot and Scheffler put it dead. And you're like, that's kind of
that
maybe
is the difference right there. Yeah, exactly.
Right, let's get into the selections then, because I'm kind of tiptoeing around them. And we're going to start with a 4-point win selection for you, Joe, and that is Bryson DeChambeau.
Yes.
We sat here ahead of the Masters. You both put Bryson up. He's 13-2 with priced up in that 10-place market. They've also boosted a top 5 finish to 15-8.
Yeah, that's very tempting, I will say, because as mentioned, my selection here is a win only on Bryson DeChambeau, but 15-8 to finish top 5 is very fair if that's the way that you prefer to play. But look, we've got a 2-time US Open champion here. He won at Winged Foot in 2020, then won at Pinehurst last year. He just thrives on these type of golf courses. I know if we want to go and look at certain courses where he will excel at, we are looking at courses that he can overpower. Now, I've mentioned you can't necessarily overpower this golf course, but you can certainly make it easier for himself from fairway to green by hitting fairways just because of his distance. As mentioned, if you're hitting a 4-iron or a 5-iron into a green in comparison to your tour pro who's 50 yards back hitting a 5-wood or a 3-wood, that is a huge difference. He looks as hungry as ever as well this year to win a major. He was tied 5th. No, he's 5th in the Masters, tied 2nd in the PGA. And for me, outside of Scheffler, this is the golfer that suits this golf course at the best. He's averaging 325 plus off the tee, incredibly accurate. Some of these holes, like I said, it could be a major positive. He's impressed me this year with his mentality, even when he's playing bad. He's not seeing everything right there as the be-all and end-all. I think he understands that patience is really important, especially at these sort of golf courses as well. Really good ball striker. I'm happy to have him as a win selection. With Scheffler and McIlroy taking up so much of the market, you might think sort of like the 8-1, 15-2, wherever Bryson is a little bit short, but I don't want the market to affect my fancies, and I think he's a really good bet here this week. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, he can't overpower this course, so it's no good, but from fairway to green, he's going to have a really big advantage, especially with these big undulating greens. He can work the ball in how he wants. I don't see where it goes too far wrong with Bryson, providing he drives the ball well this week.
Do you have any concerns, like since winning US Open last year, where obviously there was that incredible shot on the last, but Rory McIlroy handed it to him because he missed those 2 short putts. His ability to get over the line, where he's won once on Live since then in Korea, and in both the Masters and the PGA Championship, he's been in contention on Sunday, and his irons have completely disappeared.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's a 2-time major winner, so the flip side of that is he has got the game to get it done as well. Yeah. He's held off really well to win at Winged Foot and Pinehurst. Again, the winning score at both of those events was around 6 under par. I can't see it being any lower than that here. The fact that you're only going to have a very small amount of players, I think, under par this week is a major positive again for him, because I don't see how it goes too far wrong. I know he almost fell apart a little bit, like you said, at the Masters and in the PGA, but I feel that was more for him having to chase a score from where he was positioned at the time. I don't think that's going to be an issue here. I think he's just going to play within his strengths. I think that has to be good enough to have him in the top 1, 2 or 3, no doubt. So yeah, 4-point win. If you want to take that 15 to 8 priced up, I mean, you're getting better terms by backing that than you are each way at the same time. So, but look, I'm willing to stick my neck out on the line. I've backed him a few times this year, so it's not a case of just trying to be persistent either. I think he is the fit for this golf course. He cannot overpower this course, I understand that. But with his length off the tee, that's a big advantage coming into some of these greens, because he's, like I said, he's going to be hitting a high towering iron shot, where some are going to be having a hot ball flying in from a 5-wood or 3-wood, trying to keep that on the green. Big different story. So look, we'll go with Bryson again, 4-point win as my number 1 selection for my 4-man squad.
I think the point you made, George, that you made there about the irons is the one factor. Like, I've backed in the first 2 majors, and I think when we came on here to win the Masters, I sort of said I thought it was sort of the closest thing we were going to get to sort of that Brooks Koepka run in the majors a few years ago. And mentally, I think that's still the case. And I don't have, you mentioned about whether he can get over the line. I don't have any qualms about him mentally. I don't think that's going to be a factor. He loves the US Open. But those irons are a concern at 15-2 and 8-1, whatever, because he's put a new set in play this week. And that might just be the difference. It might just be a new set of irons. And there's probably not a player that I trust more to try and get over a technical issue than him. But he has done it now too. I backed him at the PGA saying that same thing, thinking he was going to get straight over it, and he didn't. And you mentioned, obviously, he's going to have the 4-iron in rather than the 3-wood, but if he's blasting it 20 yards over or 30 yards short, that's the one concern for me. Like, I think he has got this flaw now where he probably doesn't finish outside the top 10 because he's so good. But actually, the difference, as we keep mentioning with Scheffler, with getting over Rahm at the PGA, that's the difference. I just don't know if he's going to control it. Like, Koepka never missed greens when he had the chance to win.
That is a very fair point. The thing I'm latching onto here is because he's going to move the ball this week, left to right, right to left. He's going to do a lot of that. The fact that the greens are so big here, I'm hoping anyway that he gets away with that factor this time. Because I watched the YouTube video. He went and played Oakmont a couple of days ago. I've seen the upload. Seems to be hitting the ball fine. Okay, it's not pressure, etc. But he handles pressure, no problem. He, if anything, he'll thrive on it. I know he's still got to go out and play the golf, but the fact the greens are so big here, I can't see him missing too many. The one shot that is the worry is, I think what you said there, Tom, is going over the back of the green. You can't afford to miss the greens here because you're really going to struggle with those up and downs. But I'm hoping that the fact the greens are so big, I'm not overly concerned about his iron play myself. Striking the ball well enough, I think that he will manoeuvre around this golf course.
I think if you're not concerned about the irons, there's no reason not to back him. Like, that's the only reason I've not bet him. But like, I think like mentally perfect, US Open style golf suiting him fine. But just like, even if he hits the greens, if he's miles away, because as you said, they're big greens. He's got those lag putting still. I know he's pretty good at that, but like, that can come under fire a lot, especially in the US Open.
It can, definitely. One thing this week where putting isn't necessarily as much of like a stat finding asset to the golf club is because they are, like you said, Tom, they're going to have 40, 50, 60-foot putts all week long. It's not like they're going to be stiffing it to 12 foot and seeing who can make the most putts from 12 foot. They're going to have a lot of big putts this week. You're probably even putting from off the green on a lot for a lot of the time as well. So lag putting and stuff is crucial too.
Yeah, if you're happy to back a slightly odds-on shot, priced up are also best price for Bryson to finish in the top 10, just shy of even money at 20 to 21. So it could be another way to play it if you're not convinced about his winning capabilities. Best price in the market there with priced up. Tom, I'll come to you first, but this is a joint selection. Jon Rahm, 10 to 1 each way, 10 places, but boosted to 14 to 1 win only with priced up. A player who said himself that off the back of the USPGA Bat 9, where he was in a great position to go and win it, he said, that's the first time I've ever been in contention in a major and not done it. And you think he can put that right this time?
Yeah, and I think, look, we talked about it. I think you were quite keen on Jon Rahm going into the Masters. I think you were disappointed with how he performed there. But it kind of got back to the fore, right? He started really slowly in majors in 2024. Then he finished 7th for the Open Championship, 14th for the Masters this year, where it's back to business as usual. And the card will say that he finished 8th at the PGA Championship, but we all know that was a massive meltdown. He tied the lead or was within one at one point, and he looked like the most obvious challenger, right, to Scottie Scheffler, and that can't be forgotten. And I think when you look at it, a couple of really aggressive lines when he was trying to sort of overtake Scheffler, he knew that he couldn't just sit on that score and wait. He knew he had to go 1 or 2 better. I think he tried to chase that. I think that's the mentality of Jon Rahm, is that he tried to get himself in there. And I like that. I don't mind that when someone loses in that fashion. You can't just keep saying that about someone that keeps losing. But as you said, like, it is the first time that he's felt like he's been in the mix. I'd counter that slightly in the sense, like at the US Open, he was 1 shot back of Fitzpatrick going into the final round of Brookline and fell away on the Sunday. But other than that, you know, tremendous US Open record. Obviously won it at Torrey Pines. Again, people will point to that being the perfect storm. Loves that golf course. But he was tied 23rd here in 2016. He was a low amateur. And actually, I think one of the things that's quite eye-catching is he shot 69, 70, 72 to close out at Oakmont here in 2016, and that was only a couple of shots worse than Dustin Johnson, who won it. It was just a really poor start. I think the Open was 76, which as an amateur, your first US Open, it's going to, maybe second US Open, it's going to be a tough start. So, I just think the way he's been playing, you know, there's quite, you know, well talked about. He doesn't finish outside the top 10 on Live, and people sort of question whether that means anything, but it's consistent golf. His ball striking is in perfect harmony. So for me, it was just enough that he played so well on Sunday to a point on the PGA Championship that I'm going to go with him. I think this is his kind of major, and I like what I saw.
Joe, you're in agreement. 2 points each way. Yeah,
2 points each way on Jon Rahm this week. Not really a player that I've backed very often previously, but like Tom just said there, there's a lot of encouraging signs from his games recently as well. He was tied 14th at the Masters, tied 8th at the PGA Championship. It's that tee to green play, Tom, isn't it? He's just been exceptional at the moment. And if you're playing well from tee to green round here, Jon Rahm's generally a player that putts well with good momentum. So if he's playing well from tee to green, his putting generally isn't too far away as well. If he's there in the mix come the weekend, I don't see how he actually falls away. He likes to move the ball both ways, hits plenty of fairways, hits plenty of greens. It's just very encouraging to see that he's playing much better now as well. I would say watching Scottie have all of this success, watching McIlroy come on and win the Masters, I think that's a big booster for Jon Rahm. He seems a little bit upset with world ranking points and availability going forward to play in some of the majors, because he's the world number 77 in the world, but we know he's a top 5 player, really. But right now, we're probably seeing him not far off his best again. I think that's really encouraging coming into this week. And when you need to be really good from tee to green like he is, I see no reason why he can't go and play well here again. I
think people were just too caught up in last year, and I think one of the things for me with Jon Rahm, one, he missed the US Open last year, right, with an injury. But I think a lot of it was just the move to Live. He wants to be liked. He's desperate to be liked. He makes comments about the fact that they always ask him, did he get anything from Tiger Woods at the Masters? He said no, he doesn't talk to anyone else other than Justin Thomas.
Sure.
He obviously wants to be liked. And I think he thought the reception of him moving to Live would go down okay with the likes of Rory McIlroy and people like that, because I think he generally thought there was going to be kind of a merging of the two tours and everything would be rosy. And because it was quite cold, I think he struggled with that. And now that Rory softened that stance and kind of welcomed him and Tyrrell Hassan that onto the Ryder Cup team, he's all of a sudden playing better again in these majors. And I think that's a thing, just being able to turn up, knowing that you're going to get on with everyone again. That can't be all of it, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think that's a big factor.
It's that hunger as well, isn't it? He looks like he's talking about majors again. It's like he wants to build that resume. It's okay having titles from 2, 3, 4 years ago, but a player of Jon Rahm's calibre, you want to be making an impact in the big events. And I think now is the time to catch him. Whilst he's playing well, confidence is high. Yeah, it's nice to see that Tom's in agreement there, and hopefully we can come up with the goods.
Yeah, for sure. I think it felt like that Masters kind of blowout when he was playing so well at Liv might have been a good thing for him to kind of reset his mindset. Next up, we'll come back to you, Tom, because you've got 4 selections here. Joaquin Niemann, as I say, performed well last time out in a major. Obviously the star of Liv. What is it about him this weekend that you think means he should go well?
I've always felt like he's come into these a little bit shorter than he should have done, based on the Liv wins. And there was always this question of, should we credit them? And I was always a bit, like, you can't ignore that he's winning, but he hasn't shown anything in majors yet to suggest that we should go for it. I wasn't quite down the same, quite as visceral people are about him never finishing inside the top 10. I think people need time to learn. He's kind of only 26 years of age now, so he would have been playing a lot of those majors as a younger adult and just struggling with it. But this feels very much like Max Homa when he finished tied 10th for the Open Championship and then contended in the Masters the very next major start. Tied 8th for the PGA. He's got that kind of monkey off his back now. And it's a good golf course for him, ultimately. Like, big, long driver of the golf ball, accurate. He's now won 4 times this season on Liv. Regardless of what you think of it, he's beating Bryson and Jon Rahm every single time he does that. 4 for 4 in May cut since missing his first on debut in the US Open. I think he's going to improve again on the 2 that he's done so far. So 29th in the Masters this year, 8th in the PGA. I think he goes better again. I'm just ready for him now that he's got that kind of tied 8th finish under his belt to go right. He knows that he can kind of turn up in amongst the biggest fields and do it. And he just likes this type of golf. And everyone was sort of saying that at Quail Hollow. Everyone was kind of warming to him being that pick. And he's not really got any shorter and he's won again. I think it's a decent price. Yeah,
22 to 1. We're priced up 10 places there for Joaquin Niemann. Third and final headline selection. You got one other we'll come on to that you put up anti-post. The player who came into this at Oakmont in 2016 in the lead on Major Sunday. Shane Lowry going to put those demons to bed.
Yeah, I mean, look, big fan of Shane Lowry for this golf course. Again, my squad has generally been built around good players from tee to green. I think his game suits Oakmont perfectly. A lot of holes where a little bit of a fade off the tee is just going to keep your ball in play. Well, he absolutely loves that. He played well in the Canadian as well, finishing tied 13th. And again, sort of like the rest of my squad, momentum players, if they play well from tee to green, his putting generally comes along with it too. I've mentioned a few times now that we've got big undulating greens, so the emphasis on putting may not be as important as usual with regards to stats if you're looking at who's making the most 6, 7, 8, 9 footers. And this year Shane Lowry's at the top 100 as well in his putting stats as well. But from tee to green, he's second with his approach play, solid enough off the tee. Again, he's coming into this in good form, trying to keep it nice and simple. I don't see where it goes too far wrong for Shane Lowry. It suits his eye really well off the tee. His approach play has been superb. Yes, his putting hasn't been as good as it has been in recent years, but with these sort of big undulating greens where he's going to have to use a bit of creativity, I still feel like he's going to be near the top of the leaderboard for this tournament alone with that short game. I think he's got a massive chance this week. He's around 35 to 1, I think, with priced up as well.
Yeah, 30 to 1.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's really good value, I think, for this week, yeah.
Any concerns? I mean, 2016 was a long time ago, but Shane, another one who recently, on Sundays, when in contention, seems to get the wobbles a little bit.
No concern around this golf course. Get it in play, hit the greens and see if you can make a putt, and that's what he does.
Okay, good stuff. Right, we've got one more that you both share. So Tom, will start with another player that I was very keen on for the Masters and who really let me down. Sepp Straka, who's having a brilliant season on the PGA Tour. Bit of a serial winner. He's 30 to 1. Yep. Why do you like his chances?
Look, I've backed him a couple of times now, and like you, kind of let me down. I'm just this goes against the kind of recent trend of US Open winners in the sense that you need to be a bigger hitter, and I think that's going to put a lot of people off Sepp Straka this week. But I do think going back to the 2016 renewal, Jim Furyk, Zach Johnson, Kevin Knight, etc., as I've said, all getting into the mix, I think that plays beautifully into Sepp Straka's hands. This is the first time he's probably played a US Open where that kind of thing comes to the fore for him. His accuracy helps out. There's a bit of a links feel to this golf course when you look at past leaderboards. He's finished tied second in an Open Championship as well. Just so accurate, I think, is the massive thing. Like if you look at him, Colin Morikawa, Russell Henley, people that you think are just going to hit fairways, he's in that mix, and he's the one of those three that's winning this year. Twice a winner, a couple of other times been in banging contention. And as you talked about Shane Lowry there, it's about any concerns on Sunday. Like Sepp Straka's ruined his life twice, and that's the reason why I'd pick him directly over Shane Lowry. Like, I think if you're just looking for someone that has the kind of floor of like you think he's going to play well, get through the cut, and definitely be inside the top 20, I think people probably go to Shane Lowry. But I think if I just want someone that I think could just absolutely stare down anyone on Sunday, I think it's Sepp Straka, and he just hasn't got in the mix yet in these first two majors. He's missed the cut in the first two this season. He played really poorly on Thursday at the Masters. But I think that's coming with this renewed expectation for him. Like I think he's putting pressure on himself, like I need to show up in these. And I think if he can just go to this one, plod his way around the first round and go, right, I'm in the mix here, let's go. I think he's perfect for this. So it will have to be down the accuracy route. He's not gonna keep up with anyone off the tee. And maybe he finds it a bit tough on some of those longer par fours, and certainly the par three where he's got to hit probably a wood. But yeah, I really like his chances. I think someone that's already won twice this season, he's almost overlooked quite a lot still, even though we keep saying he's being overlooked. He is still, and he's going to be one of the main, Ryder Cup players.
For sure,
Yeah, he's performing the best of any of them really outside of Rory McIlroy.
I mean, even if you look at just his world rankings, world number 8.
Yeah.
I put him up at 66 to 1 anti-post. I think he's about 35s.
30.
30 to 1,
places,
I mean, look, that's much more like where he should be. Like Tom said, he's got 2 wins already this year, the American Express and at the Truist, 2 vastly different sort of golf courses.
I mean, any concern about his... I mean, this is my job here, so I'm not disagreeing with you, but any concern about his recent major record? Like, if he... 2 top 10s in 2013, but since then, 16th in the Masters, cut in the PGA Championship, 56th in the US Open, 22nd in the Open, and 2 missed cuts this season already. No concern at all. You've got to remember, even though he missed the 2 cuts this year, bar the Thursday, like Tom said at the Masters, he hasn't played bad. He shot sort of level par rounds. These are not easy golf courses. You take probably level par round here for sure,
But to start off this tournament, you'd be more than happy for him to start off at even money. Again, I'm not a massive stats guy, but I did have a bit of a look here. And strokes gained total, he's second. So he's splitting Scheffler and McIlroy there.
Yeah.
Strokes gained on approach, he's third. Greens in regulation, first. 71%, which is huge. And again, he's going to be hitting a few woods this week as well. Birdie average, first. Scoring average, second. Bogey avoidance, again, this is the big one, sixth. So he's making plenty of birdies, and he's not doing much wrong at the same time as well. So...
I think, George, like you said about the kind of 2 standout results in 2023 being the thing that we can reference, the 2nd and the 7th.
Yeah.
And then looking back, the last couple of years, he's been pretty disappointing. 2024 didn't quite go the way that he would have expected after a really good 2023. And I think just, it's almost like, look, you've achieved your goal, you've got a couple of wins, you've got into the Ryder Cup team. It's hard to keep going and going like that. And I think there's been a bit of a reset. He's then won again twice this season. And, he won just before... the Masters, right?
Yeah.
Just before the Masters and just before the PGA, right? And I think like the one before the PGA just came too soon. The Truist Championship, he's had to slog it out with Shane Lowry on Sunday. And I think just run out of a bit of steam this time around. He's finished third at the Memorial, but he's never had a chance to actually win that tournament. That was all Scheffler's. So I think it's just good form now without having that contending stuff. So as I say, I think this is probably just the first time in a long time where it actually plays into his hands. The PGA Championship was pretty long. Masters is always favouring big hitters and people have got good records around there. So this time it looks like, okay, this is your opportunity to go well. And that's why I feel quite strongly about going back to him.
He's got the ball on a rope at the moment as well with his iron play. As soon as you see him set up for an approach shot, this ball isn't really deviating. As soon as he hits it, you go, oh, there we go, there's another one on the green. When you don't hit it 300 plus regularly, you need to be accurate. 71%, just going to say that again, is a huge green in regulation stat. Even if you look at the top stats per tournament across the PGA Tour, you'd struggle to find 1 or 2 throughout the season that go higher than 71%. He's doing it consistently all year long. He's absolutely sound with a putter as well. God, he's got to be the one that fits this golf course just perfectly, doesn't he? From from tee to green. That's what I base my squad on anyway this week is tee to green. And then
it's just whether people think the distance is a big factor or not. That's
Yeah,
the
sure.
only thing, because if it is,
Yeah.
but that's where the likes of Lowry, Morikawa, Henley, all these
Yeah.
people that are really solid in US Opens or these type of tournament
Yeah, sure.
are you've got to make it. You've got to draw a line in the sand. You're either going to go with none of those,
Yeah.
or back Straka.
Yeah. Well, Colin Morikawa is a fine example because he is a player in my mind that needs to improve on his putting if he's going to win a major. As soon as you get into round 3 and 4 of these tournaments, he's anywhere near the lead. His putter just goes cold. It happened in the American Express or the Century in fact, which Hideki Matsuyama won.
Yeah.
And he was 31 under. The final round, Colin Morikawa just couldn't make a putt from 4, 5, 6 foot. And these were just flat greens. This is a completely different test this week. So you definitely want that tee to green, accuracy and high percentage over the short game, personally, anyway, because you get to the green, you're not going to lose too many shots from there anyway. It's what happens until then. So
final selection for you, Tom. Harris English, 50-1, another one who fits into this. Very straight, not going to deviate too much.
He's probably like the US Open's worst nightmare of winning. Like it's incredibly boring if Harris English wins.
Yeah.
He's not this massive underdog where it's like a Cinderella story. He's a very, very good golfer, very much on the border of Ryder Cup and elite kind of players, but not quite there.
Yeah.
He probably will play the Ryder Cup this year, but he's had 4 top 12 finishes in his last 6 starts. He's 9 for 9 for made cuts in the US Open. First 4 starts in the US Open, his best finish came here when he was 37th. He was inside the top 20 for a couple of rounds.
Yeah.
But since then, his last 5, he's had 3 top 8 finishes, 4th, 3rd and 8th. He was 3rd the year that Jon Rahm won at Torrey Pines. He's already cracked his career best in the 2 majors so far this year, 12th at the Masters and 2nd at the PGA. And look, he came from the clouds on Sunday at the PGA. Like, there's no getting away from that. But he's just in such solid form, and that really eye-catching run of 4th, 3rd and 8th amongst his last 5 US Open starts, I think is huge. And again, it's all going to come down to, does someone think Harris English is going to beat Jon Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau and Scottie Scheffler? And the answer for most people is no. But that's why you've got 10 places that are priced up. That's why you're kind of looking at different angles. And I honestly think he can as well. I do think he can win that. I think he's that type of person that he's pretty boring. So that plays into US Open stuff. And he's got that record of finishing 37th here, albeit that's not a huge result. If you look back on just course form, George, there's not many people that have got form here. Not many of this field were playing in 2016, and half the ones that did missed the cut. So including the likes of Rory McIlroy and co. So I think he's just one of those where I've kind of gone quite heavy with Rahm and Niemann at the top, big drivers, big elite players that you think are going to, the best win results. I mean, Straka and English, I think you've got 2 people that can kind of plod their way around a golf course and hopefully get a job done.
what price is he?
50-1, 10 places.
Very fair, yeah.
Yeah. Any other selections? I should also say that Priced Up also have a US Open outright win-only market too. So if there are any players here that you want to back win-only, for example, Bryson DeChambeau is 15-2 win-only with Priced Up. So there's a whole win-only market that you can find. There's a without Scottie Scheffler market, plenty of other things. And I'll mention all the 6 price boosts that are up on site now. Scheffler to win outright, 16-5. Jon Rahm, 14-1 to win outright. Ludwig Oberg, 28-1 to win outright. Any thoughts on Ludwig this weekend?
I'm a bit on the fence with him, actually.
Irons looked very good last weekend.
Yeah, it looks like he's coming back to form, but he's been very on and off. It's not like he's maintained solid form for a while. He's had a good tournament, poor tournament, finds a bit of form, doesn't quite hit the top form. So a bit ropey. Not sure what you think, Tom?
Yeah, just not reliable enough for me at the moment. This season is complete opposite of what he was for the first 6-7 months of his career.
Inexperienced for this sort of golf course as well, isn't he, when we think about it? It's okay if you're going...
I think that, because he was so good at Augusta the first couple of times he played there, I think people will latch on to the fact that he played so well at Augusta this year and go, well, he's still doing it in the big events and he's got to win this season. But he's not.
Tied 12th last year in the US Open and on debut and 2 top... Well,
God, it's obscene when you think of it like that.
16th at the Memorial and 13th at the RBC, where he just had a shocker than that par 3, didn't he?
There's enough in the last 3 or 4 starts to suggest he's getting his way back. I just think he's not quite... Bit similar to Xander Schauffele this week, both of them. I think if I was going to back someone in that range that I haven't, it would probably be Xander, just because he's never finished outside the top 14 in the US Open.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All the others have been top 10s. All in the midst of that run last season, everyone would have thought he was going to win a US Open, not the 2 that he did win. So if I had to pick one, it would probably be him. And I think he's the sort of person, George, you talk about just win-only markets, someone that you might want to back just to cover. But I just can't pick someone like Oberg over him, despite him being brilliant. I've done a lot of writing off of Oberg and he keeps proving me wrong. But I just don't think he's quite there yet. It's
going to click for both of those soon, isn't it? But it just feels a couple of rounds away.
It just feels like, you've got in the win-only market here on, so obviously 28-1 boosted Oberg, Zander 25-1. There's a fair chance those two players don't touch those kind of prices in a major championship again for a long time, isn't there? If they both come back to form. But.
And I just think you don't quite. I know the 28-1 is good with the boost with priced up. That's the first time where I thought, okay, actually, there's a reasonable price on Ludwig. The last few times it's been like, why do I want to take that risk?
Yeah.
So I get it. I would just back Zander.
And maybe a win-only proposition as well for Oberg, given his kind of up and down form.
I think they both have a really good chance in the Open this year as well. So if anyone's on the same sort of thinking as that, you can and you expect them to play well this week, then probably now's the time to back them for the Open, even though we're not there, I suppose.
So Oberg 28-1, as mentioned. Bryson 15-8, top 5, including ties. Colin Morikawa 11-4 for a top 10 finish, including ties, and Sepp Straka top 10 finish, boosted out to 4-1, selected by both the guys there, including ties. Anything in any of the sub-markets?
Yeah, I've got a few little bits. For the top 10, I do think Colin Morikawa is short price really at 21-10. On paper, this is the golf course that probably should suit him. Again, really good generally off the tee, hits a nice little left to right. Strong ball striker as well with his irons. It's just that short game that I can't get away from. It doesn't side with him in the deep parts of the tournament, which is the worry. That being said, I think he's strong enough tee to green that he is not going to be far away this week. 2-1 might be a little bit short, but I think if you back that with a few of these other selections that I've got for this week, then it could pay to be valuable enough. Top Asian this week, Ben-An 6-1. Sungjai Im, his irons are absolutely awful at the moment, really struggling to hit a green from anywhere. Massive greens this week, I'd be even struggling to see him hitting many of these. Matsuyama, he's not quite on it as well. I don't like these Asian players that have a big pause at the top of their backswing, especially when you get deep into the tournaments. Ben-An, however, is playing really well. I think the 6-1 to beat the pair of those effectively looks really strong. Top English player. Player that was close to backing outright, but I think I get a little bit of FOMO when it comes to Tyrrell Hatton. So what we're going to do, top Englishman, 18-5. So he's obviously only got to beat the likes of sort of Tommy Fleetwood, who I don't fancy for this tournament at all. But I think Tyrrell Hatton's decent enough value at 18-5. You're looking at about 7-2 for pretty decent value there. And then the top Oceania, Adam Scott, 4-1 to basically beat Jason Day, Minwoo Lee and Cam Smith. Plenty wavered off the tee, those. I like the experience here of Adam Scott at 4-1. And you can even play those in a lucky 15 if you like. So Colin Morikawa, top 10 finish. Ben-An, the top Asian at 6-1. Tyrrell Hatton, top English at 18-5. And Adam Scott at 4-1. I think they're all the prices with priced up as well.
Great stuff. Yeah, all correct. Tom, anything for you?
I should know the answer to this, but if there's a to make or miss the cut market on priced up, I would definitely look.
There is not yet.
Not yet. I would look in that if there is Brooks Koepka to miss the cut.
Yes.
Oh,
just playing poorly in majors right now, playing poorly on live, nothing going right for him. Everyone will always go down the route of, I'm sure you'll find it at some point because it's Brooks Koepka and it's a major.
But why?
I'm not going to think that. I backed Zalatoris to miss the cut last time at the PGA Championship because he was in terrible form and I thought he might be injured. Turns out he is injured and he's had to have surgery. Brooks Koepka, I don't know if there's an injury there or just playing poorly, but it doesn't really matter. So that would be something I would look at.
What price are you expecting for that, Tom? Tricky, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's probably only going to be sort of like 2-3 to 1 or something like that. But that's fine. I think
good value. I think that'd be decent value.
He misses the cut. And then Max Graysman's an interesting one for top 20. He's played all right in the last couple of major championships. Don't think he's going to have any sort of chance to win, but he's just been really solid in major championships. Decent hitter off the tee as well. So that could be a factor there. Other than that, I've not dived too far into the placement markets this week. One thing that I'll probably look at if he gets a decent tee time and it's not too affected by weather or anything, Russell Henley to be first round leader. I wanted to back him outright. He's led the US Open after round 1 twice. He threatened to go wire to wire at Torrey Pines the year that Jon Rahm won, just played terribly on Sunday, led for the first 3 rounds. So I could see him just hitting a load of fairways and making a load of putts on the first day and maybe falling out of the reckoning in the end. So Graysman top 20 and Russ Henley first round leader.
Great stuff. There we go. That brings our US Open preview to a close. As I say, priced-up.bet have you covered for the US Open Golf. 10 places they're paying. Loads of sub-markets and loads of boosts. As we mentioned, a lot of those tie into the guys' selections too, so make sure you sign up for an account. If you haven't already, check out Oddschecker for all your fixed odds betting needs as well. Bookie offers free bets, loads of stuff up on Oddschecker too, including tipping columns from the likes of Joe himself and across different sports too. So make sure you check out Oddschecker for all of those. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, George.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much for watching. Joe and I will be back for another Punting Green next week. But in the meantime, enjoy the golf and please ensure you're gambling responsibly. Hopefully, between the guys, they've got the US Open winner.